Hello, dear listener. Welcome to episode 2 of the Relationships podcast. Open relating, transparency, and being with loss to find freedom with Carmen and Rob. I am your host, Matthew Colombo. And in just a couple minutes here, you'll be hearing my interview with Carmen and Rob. And this interview is not only overall just really sweet and an insight into how a couple came together over a decade ago and their journey throughout that coming together and being with each other, but also is chock full with real examples and real tough times and really great times and where they're at now in their journey of open relating and really wanting to support each other's freedom in the world. And if you have been in situations like that, whether that be with a partner or with a friend or with a family member, it can be really challenging. You know, it brings up things in our attachment system. And so here you'll hear Carmen and Rob talking about that throughout the times of having more open and more closed times of their relationship, and including this one part of the interview that I'm recalling where Rob says, I have to be with the fact that my partner may one day be closer to someone else than me. And so I remember being at the interview and just sitting with that and feeling the heartbreak of that. And also really feeling the truth in it at the same time. That if we are to support our partner in their life path and where they're going, that may at some point not include you. And also by not allowing, I keep have to training myself out of saying that word, but by supporting, by being with the real truth that our partner is free to do what they want, we also invite more intimacy and connectedness by recognizing and supporting the other's freedom. So I hope that you enjoy this episode, and I'm very happy to hear your reflections and your comments and what you want to hear more of and less of. And also, this podcast episode is played out by my friend Madelyn Ilana's song Coming Into the Light, a song that has been really supportive to me in the past couple of years as I've gone through many changes in my life. And I think it captures a lot of the themes of this podcast. And please support her work by purchasing her music at madelynilana.bandcamp.com. You can also find out more about her at madelynilana.com. That's Madelyn, MadelynIlana.com. If you live in Asheville like I do, her new album Seeker is coming out, and the album release show is on Friday, November 21st. And so if you're interested in that, please do also go to her show. Perhaps I will see you there. So without further ado, enjoy this episode, and thank you for listening. Welcome, Carmen and Rob, to the second episode of the Relationships podcast. And I just want to thank you all so much for being here and sharing yourselves with me and with the world. It's a brave thing to share, the insides of some of your the intimacy of an intimate relationship. And thank you for doing that. I thought for starting we could just share how we are in this moment, how we are mentally, emotionally, anything that's going on. And I was thinking about doing that in terms of a color, maybe. What color are you in the moment, if you had to share any of that as a color?
Yeah, thanks for having us. I've been looking forward to doing this with you, so it's great to be here. And I think purple. I'm feeling calm and peaceful this morning. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I definitely echo that. Thanks for having us.
Mm-hmm.
My color is probably like a sky blue with some yellow stripes. It's little sparkles.
Like the Swedish flag.
Exactly. Glad you caught the reference. We had Swedish pancakes for breakfast, that's why.
Yeah, I had one too. That was really good.
Mm-hmm.
I am I'm pink. It's like a little bit of I think it's a little bit of nervousness, just of hosting and wanting to be a good host.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe a little flush in the cheeks and but yeah, overall bright colored as well.
Is it like a hot pink or?
It's no, not hot.
Not hot.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. More like a light
Light
pink. Yeah.
Like baby pink.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, yeah, so the first question that I often ask, I know you all have been together for a while. I often envision myself interviewing people and have interviewed people who have been together for a year or two. And if I'm remembering, it's been about a decade for you all. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just over a decade.
Uh-huh.
Mm-hmm.
And so I often ask about how a couple first met, or how you met and how all that went. And I don't know yet if I actually want to go there. Does that sound like something that you all want to answer? I'm also very interested in what's alive in your relationship right now. And so if there's something you want to share in that vein, also open to that too.
Yeah, I think it's relevant. How we met is relevant to the topic of openness. That might be a good place to start.
Mm-hmm.
I always kind of like to have a bit of a background before I get into the juicy stuff anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Delayed gratification.
Do you want to start?
About how we met?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's funny, couples have been together for a while. There's always kind of like the cliche of telling the story of how you met and who's going to tell it. So given that my storytelling is generally more cliche, you can definitely interrupt and with your Swedish practicality. I'm definitely the romantic of the two of us.
I wouldn't say so.
Thanks. I'm not sure how to take that. Yeah, so we met in September of 2014. It's the end of the summer in Shanghai. I remember it's a wonderful time of year. I think in that city, it can get really hot and stuff during the summers and actually pretty cold during the winters, and spring and fall is always my favorite. So I was actually out that day on a motorcycle trip out in the countryside and pretty exhausted. And I got back into town, and my friend Shawnee called me up on the phone just as I was heading back home, about to crash. And was it her birthday that day or something? Or maybe it was just like a spontaneous impromptu gathering?
No, it wasn't spontaneous. It was because she had a Swedish friend, and then she had a Thai friend. And then she really wanted me to introduce me and my sister to her one Swedish and her one Thai friend.
Okay, I got it, yeah.
Swedish, half Thai.
Right.
And then so she was like, let's get a dinner together because you have to meet my two friends.
Right. Okay.
The same origin. as
Right.
you.
Okay.
Yeah.
So she'd
That was the theme.
she'd already
of the
connected with you
dinner.
about this dinner.
Yeah, me and her were friends.
Yeah. And Shawnee was a friend of mine at that point already for probably, many, many years.
Since college.
Yeah. Anyway, she called me up. She was like, I'm having a dinner tonight. I'd like to go. And I said, no, I'm way too tired. I'm just going to go crash. And she said, well, there's this really hot Swedish Thai pair of sisters who are going to be there. And so I just like turned around and went straight to the restaurant, obviously. Didn't even stop home to take a shower. Did not pass go. Straight to the restaurant. And I arrived there. I think like you guys were already sitting down, and I sat down.
Yeah, you.
And I think I was like one of the last people at the table, and you were sitting to the right of me.
Mm-hmm.
And so we got our like crappy Yenjing Pijo that was going around to start, and which I really don't like. There are some good beers in China, that's not one of them. So we ordered some cocktails, and Carmen started talking to, I think her sister, it must have been your sister, maybe it was a Swedish friend, across the table of like 12 people in Swedish. And although I speak Swedish perfectly now, like you can't even tell that I'm not Swedish. I was like, dude, you know how rude it is to be speaking a language like that nobody understands at the table.
You said
And
that
I said
to
that
Carmen?
to Carmen.
Yeah.
That was the first thing.
I said that to Carmen.
Mm-hmm.
And
In a joking way, or was it pretty serious?
what was
Do
your
you
perception
remember
of
it
that
as?
comment?
Yeah. Do you remember that?
I think it was pretty serious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, maybe there was like a little smirk, but I thought it was kind of rude. Like, I don't know. I was like, well, I'm here. The whole reason that we're at this dinner is to connect with a Swedish and Thai friend, and it's exciting when you're living internationally, really far away from your home country, and then you meet somebody from there. It's like a whole other sentiment to be like exchanging a couple of sentences with that person in your mother tongue. And so, I mean, I guess it is rude to be doing that at a dinner table.
She already
I'm
figured
like,
out.
who is this person? Like, who's this guy?
Yeah.
Like, it's the kind of thing that people think. If someone's going to say it out loud, they're just going to be like, okay. Yeah.
You'd already figured out that I was American, so you expected me to be rude anyway, so that
I
really
see.
didn't change the context at all.
Yeah.
But yeah, dry humor, anyway.
Uh-huh.
It's a dry humor. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't like I was offended. It was more like, oh, haven't even said hi to this person. And this is the first thing they point out. That's kind of ballsy.
Yeah.
And
So what you
then-
decided to do,
Uh-huh.
rather than saying something, is you just started to drink my cocktail. And
Yeah.
You like threw down like half of it.
There was something about like, sometimes when like, you don't know somebody, but you feel really comfortable with them anyway. So it's the kind of thing where like, okay, there is this stranger sitting next to me, but he probably won't mind that I have some of his drink. Like, it just felt like he wouldn't mind, and he didn't mind. He didn't care. I just like sipping on his cocktail, and he didn't even say anything. He wasn't like, oh, excuse me, like, are you aware that you're drinking from my cocktail or something? He didn't even make a comment on it. It was just, it was okay, and it was like this unspoken thing that like you, like what you can have whatever's mine. I don't actually care.
Yeah, and that's
That
actually
was kind of nice.
yeah. People taking things of mine without asking is actually my love language.
Yeah.
Assuming I like them.
Okay, so you're there at the table. Carmen's drinking your cocktail. Then what happens?
And then went out dancing
That same night.
that same night. Yeah. And most of the other people dropped off at some point in the evening, but the Thai person who was there, it was me, her, and Rob who stayed out. And the only place, for whatever reason, I don't know, the only place that was open or the place that we ended up going to was this kind of like a seedy like hip hop R&B place where people were just like grinding against one another, and it's like not really my vibe or Rob's vibe or anybody's vibe. But we were just.
Do you remember the name of the venue?
Monkey Champagne.
It was called Monkey Champagne.
Monkey Champagne. It was just such a seedy place, and we found ourselves, the three of us, just like dancing in like what do you call that? Like a sandwich. Yeah.
One in the middle and two on.
Yeah, we were like grinding in like it was like an Oreo cookie.
Like an Oreo cookie kind of thing, yeah.
Who was
the
middle?
creamy filling?
That's what
I think we all were in the middle at some point.
Right.
Yeah, we just kind of took turns. Pretty drunk, and then
I was totally sober.
Rob was sober because I had all your cocktails. And then, but I actually had I was seeing somebody at the time. I had a boyfriend, and Rob dropped me off with his motorcycle at my boyfriend's house, and for some reason, like, the gate was locked, or I didn't have the key, I can't remember, and Rob was like, well, how are you gonna get inside? I was like, oh, don't worry, I'll just climb over the fence. And he was like, are you sure? And I was like, yeah. And then I like climbed, and I think I fell.
Yeah, you were like...
I like got stuck with like my clothes or something.
Yeah, you were doing this like... I remember you were kind of walking backwards, doing this like giddy like wave.
But it was
and
really
you, like,
embarrassing because
your...
I climbed the fence, and then like fell down on the other side and like ripped my clothes or something. And then you were like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm fine. But I actually wasn't really fine. And it was kind of embarrassing. Like, that's how we said goodbye.
Yeah.
And you were like, are you gonna be okay? Like, don't worry about me. Nice to meet you. See you next time. And then the next time was actually the following morning when we went out to brunch.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was gonna have brunch with some friends, and you kind of like invited yourself, I think, maybe. Or did I invite you? I can't remember.
Wasn't that Natalie Gray's?
Yeah.
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 And
She invited me.
Oh, she invited you. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So oh yeah, because I was like, I'm gonna go to brunch with Natalie Gray, and you were like, oh, I know her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was a Sunday, and Rob shows up to this brunch with a suit.
I wasn't wearing a suit.
It was like a shirt.
I was wearing a dress shirt and suit pants.
Yeah, dress shirt and suit pants. And I was like, who is this guy who shows up on a Sunday with this formal clothing?
Yeah.
Just trying to show off or something.
Uh-huh.
And he was like, no, I had a meeting. Like, I've been working. And I was being all judgmental that he was like this like professional guy who like had his life together and just like works and goes to like business meetings on a Sunday. Yeah.
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 Yeah, I remember because I came from Pudong. I had like a pitch for like MasterCard or someone
Barclays.
Like that. Oh, okay.
Yeah, you were like, I had a meeting with Barclays. I was like, ooh.
I don't remember who it was.
Yeah.
But yeah, you thought I was like... you thought I was
you
like
were
some
like the
preppy...
Wolf on Wall Street. Something.
Well, compared to what I was wearing the night before, I think you should have done a little bit more. Because you were giving me a hard time because what I was wearing when I was at the restaurant.
Yeah, you were wearing like a grey tank top that had like a huge hole ripped in the back.
Some contrast.
It was like smelly from being on the motorbike all day.
And my sister was like, Carmen, you should really be careful with that Rob guy. Like, he seems to be kind of a bit of a Casanova. Yeah, so she like warned me about him. Yeah.
We should have taken her advice.
Yeah. But then we were actually friends for a whole year. Like, there was definitely sexual tension there from the first beginning. But we were not like officially dating, going out for, I think it was a year.
And you were
Maybe slightly
dating
less than a year.
you were dating someone that whole year or part of that year?
No,
that
it
you
only
were
lasted like a couple of months.
Okay.
And Rob was involved with somebody who then kind of transitioned out of being together, but they were still kind of seeing each other and had been living together and weren't living together, but were still spending a lot of time at each other's house. So they were still kind of involved with one another. And I was involved with this person. That was a very brief thing, that didn't end up lasting. But I think even after that, there wasn't this like certainty of like, oh, like we've met and now it's gonna be you and me. Like I feel like there was some time that passed where we would spend a lot of time together, and I would definitely reach out to him when things were hard or I was going through something, and then I realized that, oh my god, this is like somebody who like doesn't care about whether I want to be friends or I want to be partners. All he cares about is just wanting to be around me because he likes me as a person. And I think once I realized that, I was like, wow, this is like a really solid person that I need to have in my life. Yeah. Which is kind of like when I think about like now that we're exposed to all these terms, and people have all these frameworks and concepts around like what they are and the philosophy around it. I'm thinking about relationship anarchy. And I can't remember what year that term was coined by that Swedish person.
Oh.
But it's a thing, like people like, I practice relationship anarchy. And there's like this manifesto that you go by or whatever.
Yeah.
And we like learned about it last year or maybe early this year. And we were like, oh, well, that is like what has been our philosophy all along. And that seems really fitting to what we've been striving to do. We just didn't know what it was called. Would you agree with that?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was very much my approach, that I was, and I run into this a lot. There's a lot of preconception about what X means or Y means, and it's like a deprogramming. It's like an unschooling of like romantic thought. And I think because I just grew up like this new age hippie kid at like progressive college, and I was always identified as being very anti-authoritarian, breaking shit down. That was always my approach. And I remember being in college being like, there's no labels, like, there's da, and how we're all idealistic. And then I think at that time in my life, I realized that perspective was actually really valuable. It wasn't just some idealistic like teenage thing where you want to just like sleep with everybody and get away with it. It's actually like an approach that was really really resonated and was kind of programmed into the way I approach relationships. But I had been so like beat up in my 20s and 30s about like everything having to be one way or another. And for me, it's very not sexually based. It's really about having some type of spark and wanting to chase it out of curiosity. So Carmen may feel that I had some type of incredible self-control or very sophisticated perspective, but it's really just my operating system. And I was a late bloomer sexually, so it was also like a place of refuge to be close friends with someone before like being sexual with them.
Which was very different from my upbringing and my perspective. I was very transactional when it came to sex. And there was this time when we had decided to go on a climbing trip together, and I had like explicitly said, or I can't remember if I explicitly, but we had talked about, I think I had maybe shared like, we're not like, maybe like I'm not interested in like anything other than friendship or so right now. And he was like, okay. And then we had decided to go on this climbing trip, and out of respect to honor that, Rob had booked two hotel rooms or like 2 bedrooms at like the guest house where we were staying. And in my mind I was like, well, I've said that, but now we're going on this trip, and obviously something's gonna happen. And then I remember showing up at this guest house in this like rural town in western China in Yunnan, and we arrive and then he's like, okay, so here's your room and here's my room, and I was like, what the fuck? Like, I was like really offended. I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, you said that you want, and I was like, yeah, I might have said that, but gosh, like, I was like really offended, and he was really confused. He's like,
that's what you said.
That's what you said, and we are doing this trip, and we're friends, and that's okay. And I was like, well, it's not, because I thought it was like understood that we're gonna have sex on this trip, because we're clearly like attracted to each other, and we're doing this trip, and I don't know, you're here and I'm here, and here we are, whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was kind of interesting that I was like, oh, you actually meant that.
Yeah.
Because I feel like from my perspective, it's like, yeah, something you say, but ultimately, like it's actually like kind of sad to say, but like most guys that I've been around, they have not honored that. Like I might have said, oh, like I don't want to do this, and they're like, okay, and then one thing just leads to the other, and then you're just like, okay, and it's not like sexual abuse or rape, because it's not like the other person like didn't want it, but sometimes it's so subtle. You're just like, okay, we're doing this now, and I want this, but I had said at some other point that I didn't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this seems to be sort of different in the way that you, I don't know, Rob, you can speak to how it was for you, but you had said, I just want friendship.
Yeah. But
and then actually you didn't actually, and then you maybe from having these other experiences were like, oh, but now it's this.
I expected it to
because,
shift and not to be like a conversation about it. It's just shifting, and then like here we are, and I'm also okay with it because that's all I knew. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So
of course we didn't end up sleeping in either of those rooms that night. We ended up just like taking some MDMA and sleeping in a ditch in the field.
I don't think we even slept. We just stayed up all night and talked.
So you went climbing during the daytime, or
I think
that was actually a separate trip.
That was a separate trip.
Yeah.
That was a trip. You're talking about trip to Liming. This was a trip to Moganshan.
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't remember which one we did first.
Yeah.
Moganshan
We
was
basically
first,
rode a
but-
motorcycle out there for like 3.5 hours or 4 hours. Checked in, like had some Korean barbecue, and then slept in a ditch.
Yeah.
And then we got back
in a ditch. Describe
It was
this
like on the side of the road.
Okay.
Yeah, it was literally a ditch.
So what it was is, it wasn't actually like a ditch. So like there's all this farmland nearby, and it's in a valley, and there's a mountain on the other side. So
Nice field.
And in China, there's like it's kind of like in what I've heard about, like in Scotland and in Ireland, you can walk around through the farms, and there's like public domain rules, and that's the way it is in rural China. Like farmers, people will just walk through everybody's property. So we're just walking out through the farm at sunset, and we sat down at some point out in beautiful field, and they have these rows between the vegetables. So it was like one of those rows.
But it was the one that was between the road and the field, so it kind of was a ditch.
I'm trying to make it seem more
remember.
romantic.
Yeah, I remember it being.
It wasn't like there were
actual
like
ditch.
dead squirrels and litter like that. It's a little bit nicer than that.
No, but there was some dirt.
It was a little dirty.
That's okay, but no trash. That's good.
Not as dirty as Carmen expected it to be.
There were no like needles or anything like that.
And so you stayed there. That's where you stayed that night.
I mean, we stayed up all night and talked.
Okay.
Yeah. Until the sun came up. Yeah. They would shared each other's life story, basically. Yeah, it was very nice.
Wow.
And then I remember, which I thought was so sweet, the ride back to Shanghai. You were like, it was really sweet. You had your head on my shoulder, and you were singing songs that you were listening to on your headphones for 3 hours. And I was like, it was just like that like life in you, and that like spark and that spontaneousness. That's when I think I really fell in love with you that moment on that trip.
I think I was trying not to fall asleep.
Because you had stayed up all night, and you were driving back.
Yeah, and I was like, I can't fall asleep because I'm going to fall off this motorbike.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I also remember doing that because I felt very comfortable and safe.
Mm-hmm.
And I love to sing, but I'm not going to sing just like in front of anybody, but I was blasting out my Swedish tunes. Yeah, that was a sweet moment.
Yeah, beautiful. It's such an adventure story. I love hearing all the places that you went and the context of how you met and all of that. And there was like so many threads that came up in what you were talking about, and I could pull any of them. One I guess I'll ask just to set some more context too is when did you have that sense of, okay, we're together now? It's Carmen and Rob. Like, was there a point at which you mark that happened?
I think for me personally, it was when I decided that I want to bring Rob to Sweden. And I want him to see my home. Mm-hmm. And that was the following summer. So we met in September, and then we went there to Sweden in July. Mm-hmm. And we stayed with my mom and my stepdad, and just had the most amazing trip.
It was a midsummer trip.
It was a midsummer, so it must have been June then.
Yeah.
June, maybe into July.
Yeah, the weather was incredible.
Or something, yeah.
Yeah, the parties were incredible.
We were just like eating smoked fish and...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your mom would come out at 3 o'clock in the morning, like spontaneously with like a huge tray of like crayfish.
Oh yeah, we had that midsummer party when the sun didn't set.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
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 The Swedes just go fucking nuts in midsummer. Just unreal. Like up until like I remember your neighbors who seemed like kind of the quiet conservative neighbors were like just
they were wild.
They're wild. Yeah. They're over. Like, and that the one woman was like dancing with me. She was like, I want to ride you like a stallion.
No, I think that was actually my stepdad's, my stepsister who did that. Yeah.
Okay, that was your stepsister. Yeah. And I was like, well, we're poly, so sure. No, for the record, I did not sleep Carmen's stepsister. Not that I didn't want to.
Gently asked her to get off your lap.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I was like, maybe another time. Thank you.
So I sort of have a question that, and you can go where you will with this, it has sort of multiple parts. It's like, you mentioned, Rob, that you sort of had this orientation maybe towards something like relationship anarchy or not having labels from a younger age. Mm-hmm. And Carmen maybe used something slightly different. So I guess I'm curious about that. One is like, did you see modeling of this in your younger times with parents or family members or friends, or was it something that evolved over time? And then, yeah, I guess I'll just start there. Like, how did that go, or what did you see around you, and how did you come to this place of this is how we're going to do relationship together?
For me, I think it was really idealism. I think it was a approach. It's just like in my teenage years, it was just like, what can I do that's like, how can I be different and cool and like give the finger to the man in every way that like doesn't actually affect my life, but makes me seem like better than everybody else, as like teenagers do. They're like, I'm so cool because I'm so different and I don't think like true RA, like in terms of the work of like really working through emotions, is something that has become a strong tool in my belt until the last year. Up until that time, it was really like a matter of willpower. It was like, this is the way I want to be. And like in college, I'd be like, yeah, there's no names, like be friends. And like I had like, you know, a lot of friends who were women that I just had like kind of a whole gray area of relationships, and it seemed really natural to me at that time because I was like in a college bubble. But then when I got out into the real world, it was just like things became a little bit more binary. And even with Carmen and I, over the period of like our life, we had a philosophy, but then like when we get into situations, all those emotions would come out. So there's a big difference between like the value system and the willpower, and then the programmed, just like the neuroprogramming from media and youth and friends and society, and that took a lot of work that hasn't been something for me that I've really worked through until fairly recently.
Wow. Yeah.
What do you mean by that?
What I mean is, when I met you, I felt like it was the right thing, and I gained my confidence from being like, yeah, you do whatever you want to do. Like, I'm here to empower you to be a successful human being, and from a position of service and love, unconditional love. But it was not emotionally easy for me to like see you like sleep with your old boyfriend when you were like 3 months pregnant with our child, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like that was very difficult for me.
Yeah.
And those type of emotions, I don't think I really started to like put myself and dig into until the last year to year and a half, because up until that point it was always specific instances of usually like a sexual encounter, not of an ongoing relationship or someone falling in love. And that really is like the difference between being like, okay, I can manage this and deal with it, versus, oh, I'm gonna have to really reprogram my brain.
But isn't that more like getting into like where we are in our journey about polyamory, like beyond relationship anarchy? Or do you think it's
I think it has
related?
to do with RA, because I'm just getting to a separate topic, but I don't particularly like the word polyamory.
Yeah.
Because of how it's perceived, and even though like I guess the etymology of that word is, I'm not aligned with it, the social context of it, in my experience, I'm not super aligned with it. But relationship anarchy, the idea that any relationship can be what it wants to be, and it forces you to do more work, because you have to decide what that means for yourself, and it's like in the gray area.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
Because every relationship, you have to decide what that means to you, and with that person, you have to have contracts, implicit or explicit contracts with that person for what that means to feel good about it. So you have to do the guidelines that many people use in life to avoid having to question things. They only have to learn once. Whereas with RA, you have to learn it every single time you have a relationship with someone else. And so that's why, like, in the past, when we like crossed those guidelines, it was really hard, but I was just like, okay, it is whatever it is. But that pain goes away when like it's just an ex-boyfriend visiting for a weekend and then going away, you never see them again. But if it's someone who lives in town who you're seeing, and you're watching your partner fall in love with that person, then you really have to dig into that. What does that relationship imply for my relationship with my partner? What are the things that feel good and don't feel good? And then it makes you turn the lens on yourself and be like, how am I reacting to that? And am I comfortable dealing with these emotions, or can I work through them? And should I remove myself from a situation or evolve it to something else, or should I double down on it? And that's like the work. Right?
Yeah, and I think maybe it's necessary to give a little bit of background story to like, and I think it's all related to everything we've been talking about so far. But essentially, my history of dating people throughout my 20s, up until the moment I met Rob, were basically just like monogamy was the only thing that I knew about, and it was the only thing that seemed to be like available in my environment, like culturally and socially at that time. And I always felt like I was in a relationship with somebody, and I would meet so many cool, interesting people that I would feel attracted to, or I would have a crush on, and then I would like talk to friends about it, and they'd be like, well, if you really want to be with somebody else, it means that the person you're currently with, they're probably just not the right person for you. You just haven't met the one. That's why your eyes are like always like fleeting and like looking at other people. You're supposed to only have eyes for one person. And if you don't have only eyes for that one person, there's something wrong, and you probably shouldn't be in that relationship. So then I would like end that relationship and maybe pursue something with this person that I had just met that I was very interested in. And then that didn't lead anywhere, and then I regretted it, and I was like, well, I really want to go back to this other person, but now that's too late because like it broke their heart or whatever. And then what I started doing was to just like have like series of relationships that just overlapped with one another. Like I was with someone and then I met somebody else, and sometimes I was able to end it with the other person, and sometimes I didn't actually like fully end it with the other person before I had kind of already like started like being involved with somebody else. And then I started feeling really bad about just like there's something wrong with me, because I actually really genuinely have feelings for these two people at the same time, and I actually genuinely would love to be with both of them, but that's not possible, so maybe I should just be alone. And so that was just this kind of like struggle that I was dealing with throughout my 20s, and thinking that there is like something fundamentally wrong with me. By the time that I met Rob, I remember saying to him that like, hey, you seem like a really nice person, and you probably shouldn't get involved with somebody like me, because it just hasn't gone well with my other relationships, and I don't think I'm able to be in a relationship with one person like only, and I don't know like what that means. And he was just like, no, it's because you're a free spirit. And it's very obvious to me, like I saw that the first time we met, and you just need to be free. And I was like, oh, like what do you mean? And he was like, well, like I've been non-monogamous, and I think that you're probably non-monogamous too. And I was like, what's that? You know? And we kind of started talking about that, and he was like, well, you know, that's like a thing, and people totally do that, and this is how it works. And basically he was basically just like, my philosophy of love and being with somebody is that you always want to have like full, complete transparency about everything, and you don't hide anything from one another, even if it means that you're wanting to be with somebody else sexually. You know, then we talk about it and we figure it out. You don't just like hide it or pretend that it's not there, because it doesn't mean it's gonna go away. And I was like, oh, so you're saying if you and I were supposed to be in a relationship together, closely connected, you know, and I was like, oh, I want to be with that guy over there, I'm just gonna go and be with him? And he was like, yeah, I mean, we talk about it, but like essentially that is what I'm saying. And I was like, no, there's no way that he would be okay with that. And then in my like immature self, like mid-20s, I would just like, we would go out and I would like hook up with somebody, and then we would talk about it the next day, and he would be like really upset and really hurt, and it would be really hard. And I would be like, what, like, oh my God, what have I done? Like, I thought that this was something that was okay for us to do. And obviously the way I went about it wasn't like the most sensitive, caring way. And I didn't realize that there's like so many different ways that you can do it. And then I was like, well, this was like what we had talked about, that this was going to be okay for you. And it felt really important for me to like somehow like prove that, or make sure that he wasn't just saying that, but like he actually meant it, that is like what his values were. So we did that a couple of times, and I decided that this is not worth it. Like, it felt really damaging to our relationship. It was bringing so much like pain and hurt, and I felt like I don't want to inflict all of this pain. And of course Rob could have also like gone out and hooked up with somebody, but he didn't want to do that at the time, and he is somebody who likes to take his time and is a little bit more slow to like meet people, and somebody that he really wants to be with is not going to just like pick up anybody from a bar. And not that I would pick up anybody from a bar, but I don't know, maybe that's a little bit like easier somehow for me. Maybe I'm less picky, I don't know. But so then we just put the whole thing on ice for a few years. Like, let's not do this, actually. Like, I really just want to be with you. And yes, I do want to explore this other aspect of being open, but not like this, because this is feeling very hard and painful. So we put things on ice for a while, and then we revisited that and had a relationship with a person like together that we dated, and we were in a triad for about a year. And that also had its own challenges, but when things were not challenging with that person, they were actually like really beautiful, and we were actually like doing something together and exploring something new, and it definitely like deepened our relationship and our understanding from one another. But then that also ended with kind of a bit of a sour, bitter note at the end, and then we also put that on ice for a while, and we're like, let's just like focus on each other now. And our second child was born, and we just got super busy. And then so it's only in the last year that we've like reopened, you know, for a third time. And this time we're like, okay, well maybe we should like have a therapist involved this time. You know, let's each see like our own therapist, and let's also have a relationship coach that we're talking with like together, and let's just like do it right this time, because we're you know, we have a more stable relationship now, and we've been through this a few times, and now maybe we can like do it in a way that's not going to be as hurtful.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
So it seems like this last time, because it looks like we've got the period of you all getting together, you know, how that looked for both of you, going to Sweden, and then a period of you having that discussion of, it's Carmen saying, it's okay if I go out and hook up with other people, but then it actually being really painful in the relationship when it actually got brought up after the fact. So there was a time of like a decision of, okay, actually we're gonna be functionally monogamous for this time, perhaps. And then there's this triad for a period of time that happens where you're both in relationship with another person, that ending, and then sort of another period of maybe just being with each other again, and then recently opening again. Do I kind of have that right?
Yeah.
Sort of ish in the timeline.
I think the timeline is right. I think one additional piece, I don't think that like the closing down was like an explicit understanding.
It wasn't like right now we're closing down. It just kind of,
the philosophy was always the same.
Evolved.
It just kind of became that way.
Yeah.
Because I think probably for both of us, going back to the emotional work thing, just because you have devotion to something or to a principle and you have experience with it doesn't mean that it's not hard.
Yeah.
And when there's so much going on, it really takes like sometimes an outside impetus to like force you to look at that.
Yeah.
And I think on every occasion we opened up, it was really that. It was really like the philosophy. For me, when I had those opportunities, I was like, I'm sure Carmen will be totally supportive of this, but I'm on this business trip. Is it worth this one night stand to then like have to go back and make this person feel good? So like I can get my rocks off for like this experience, but then this person's going to be in pain, and it just didn't seem like an equal out or like an equal trade.
But I mean, there was a time when you went on a trip and you like called me and you're like, oh, there's this cute girl here. I was like, well, maybe you should like, and then they like ended up kissing. And I remember being like, well, you should like go
you
for
always
it,
you always supported me.
I was trying, and then he was like, it doesn't feel right, because I think like our second child was like a baby, and he was like, am I gonna be that guy who go on a business trip and like fuck someone, and my wife is home with the kids? I think to you maybe that felt icky, but then not knowing like actually, I mean not knowing that your wife at home is like, you should go on. And you're just like, but I think you're also just like, you say that now, but when I come home, you're probably gonna be pissed.
Yes.
You know, like,
and
like in a way that I didn't, like maybe that I don't know myself. I'm like, I think I'm okay on that.
Well, has that happened? Has there been a scenario where Rob has been with someone and then it's been hard for you?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, recently.
Okay.
I mean, not been with somebody, I mean that too, like sexually, but I'm just thinking like most recently there's a person that he went out on a date with, and I've been like extremely encouraging and like, I think it's great, I'm so happy that you're doing this, I want you to have a great time. and he would come back, and I would still be very happy and like want to hear about all the details and everything. But then like the following morning, I would like find myself being like snappy about like petty things. I'd be like, "You didn't put away this cup on the table," and he was like, "Why are you giving me a hard time on this?" I'm like, "Because I'm jealous, and I'm knowing that I have to become more mature, and I'm sorry I'm being this way, and I have to work on it. I'm sorry." So like things would blow up from like little things, and he would be like, "Why are you getting hung up on this little thing?" And I'm like realizing that it's like not about that. Yeah. So I'm like more explosive in that way, in the way that I communicate. I mean, reactive, I should say. And Rob tends to be somebody who like is just like more like well composed and just like deals with it in other ways, and not with that kind of like aggression, I guess.
Yeah, I just like push it down deep until it becomes like a festering chronic disease that nobody knows about.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, I'll laugh with you for a sec, and then also, I mean, it's so heartwarming to hear that you also though have decided to get support individually, with therapists, and then have a couples coach as well.
Yeah,
and
we did fire the couples coach.
Okay.
Because we didn't like something about her philosophy, but we can get into that later.
Sure. So you don't right now. You're not currently seeing
not anymore.
For
no,
that because
we were
of that.
we were for a while there though.
Yeah. Because I mean, Rob, I know you've mentioned a few times already, like it's really been the past year and a half where you've really dug in, because there were more of these one-off, like Carmen would be with someone maybe on a trip or for a short time, and so it was easier to be with that. But I guess more recently, maybe there's been more sustained relationship, and so part of that has...
No, I think it was none of it was easy for you.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think
Maybe.
he was... what I heard you say earlier is you were able to be with it a little bit easier because you knew it was short term, maybe wasn't sustained at certain points, and so you could kind of gloss over it, but then there were more recently there's like more sustained intimacy, and that maybe you have to be like, oh, well, what does this actually like mean for my relationship with Carmen and all of this?
Yeah. I think that's just a basic phenomenon. Like, if someone's like, I'm going to put electrodes on your balls for 5 minutes, then you're like, okay, I can deal with it. But if they're like,
just going to leave them there?
We're going to leave them there for the rest of your life, then you're like, okay, I have to kind of like reapproach my perspective on this.
Thanks for that illustration.
And so... So yeah, and so now I guess anything that I think I know from talking with you some, Carmen, that you have a longer, more sustained relationship with someone else right now.
Currently,
and so I guess anything for either of you about how that's going, and what type of personal stuff is coming up that you're both needing to work through and all of that.
Yeah, do you want to share how that's been for you?
And maybe a little bit more context from your side would be useful, like about your relationships and and not like the whole, you don't have to go back like 3 or 4, but just
Okay, well, so briefly I had been dating a couple of other people before the person that I'm currently dating, and each of those lasted for a couple of months only, and ended pretty roughly in one way or the other, but there was a lot of pain and hurt and the kind of situation where like I can't have any more contact with this person anymore, and so going through that and meeting the person that I'm seeing now, finding that this is somebody who is definitely offering significantly less volatility. There aren't these like really intense, extreme ups and downs, which was very hard on both me and Rob. I think it was incredibly exhausting for Rob to have to listen to me have all these fights and arguments constantly with this other person that he was like I know that deep inside he was like, what the fuck is she doing with this asshole? Like, he's acting like a complete dick, and she's still wanting to be with him, but on the outside he would be, I mean, he wouldn't like lie about it, but he would be incredibly supportive and be like, I care about you, and you clearly care about this person, I'm not quite sure why, and I'm gonna do whatever I can to help you, support you in this relationship, because I think that's what you want. But it was like when those relationships ended, he was like, God, I'm so relieved that that's over, because that was really rough. And I think that, at least from my perspective, I think this has been different. I mean, I'm sure there are still ups and downs, me like working through my anxious attachments, being in like in a relationship with somebody, but I would say that there's like a significantly less volatility in this relationship that I've now been in since April. So
yeah, that's true. I would describe that as kind of you're kind of encapsulating a more mature phase of us understanding and working with these relationships, where you have a long-term outside relationship from an RA perspective, which could evolve into anything. And, you know, one has to like be in acceptance of that. And the dynamic of like me supporting you, managing, you know, challenges with another relationship and conflict and resolution is one aspect of that. There's initial parts of that journey that were far more challenging. So for example, one thing might be useful to talk about is when we kind of got back into this phase, we basically went on a college reunion trip. You met someone on that trip, and because we hadn't dealt with this, you were not really sure how to approach it, and there was a whole period of like something going on that I wasn't aware of in the beginning, and then that person being like an old college friend telling me one thing and telling Carmen something else, and that level of intensity was very, very challenging, because my foundation is transparency with the other person as like my bestie, and regardless of where the relationship goes, like what we have built throughout our life, there's no reason to give that away. And that goes back to the relationship anarchy thing, because just because you're sexual, have a relationship with someone else shouldn't supersede that. But if you're hiding something, that means that there's a risk, right?
Exactly.
And
that was me going back into my old patterns about feeling that I couldn't be entirely honest and transparent, because that had not worked well in my past monogamous framework. And then it was hurtful to Rob to have known me for so many years, and we had always been honest with one another, and there I was like interested in this person and not feeling like I could be. I didn't feel comfortable talking to my love of my life, partner, husband, parent of my 2 children, the person I'm wanting to be with for the rest of my life, about how I'm attracted to this other person. It felt really strange, and he kept on telling me like, Carmen, you need to pretend that I'm your best friend, or talk to me like I'm your best, not pretend like we are best friends, but talk to me as if I'm your
wait a second.
Truth, actually you're my enemy. No, but like
truth comes
talk to me as if I'm your like best girlfriend is what I meant to say. And I'm like, well, like, what do you mean? Like, am I gonna be like, oh, like he's like like, it just felt really awkward to like talk to your partner about your attraction to somebody else, you know, which is like a sexual attraction. It felt very, very difficult, and that's one of the big things that we were working through with that relationship coach, where she was just like encouraging me to really like work on that and really do that. And then once I finally was able to do that, that helped a lot, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that for me, that's just foundational.
It's foundational.
Yeah, so it's like the framework that the coach had was this kind of freedom and devotion spectrum, and like the freedom comes from this level of devotion to a person, and part of that devotion for me is like full just transparency, even if it's difficult, because I'd rather have that person come to me. It's not a radical honesty thing. There's still like some common sense in there, like there's a time and place, but you're not gonna like wait 2 weeks and be like, hey, I felt really awful about this, but I've been hiding it. Like, I've actually had phone sex with this person while you were like, you know, in the other room or doing something or away. And there was some hard, like I was on like a trip I was in like Korea or something in an airport. And like we had some agreements about how to kind of get back into the water, wade into the water. We wouldn't do this and that. And then I would be in these situations where I couldn't, it was a different time zone, I couldn't like, and some of those agreements would have been, those lines would have been crossed. And that came to the point I was like, agreements don't make any sense. Like rules are made to be broken. It creates a taboo. Fuck all that. Let's just go back to just like attunement. And that is really what unlocked it, is like having a very deep level of attunement, of sharing emotion. Because when someone close to comes and shares that with me, that exhibits that they have trust and confidence, and it reinforces the foundation. Whereas if there's something that is being hidden, and I understand it can be emotionally difficult to do something. It's not like there's something that always is wrong, but sometimes it's just difficult to have the conversation. People might hide it. It's easier. But when it does that, it kind of tears apart the roots of the relationship. And for me, that...
Because you're going to know that something is up.
Yeah, because you're going to know
obvious.
anyway.
Yeah.
And then that's like the beginning of the end of things. When you start to like just go off and have separate lives.
Yeah.
That might be particular to my style, but that's really important to me.
But that was something that really like clicked for us, I think, like through those sessions that we were working with this person, when she was like, imagine that you like share the same nervous system. And when somebody is like agitated or somebody's going through something, whether they share verbally with you what's going on or not, the other person will feel it anyway. And because they feel it, like just have that knowing, like have that sense, that intuition that like when my partner is suffering, you suffer too, because you are like so closely connected to one another. And I really feel that is true for me and Rob, that we're just like, you know, in some ways like one person, because we've shared so much together over these last 11 years together.
Yeah.
We've been through so much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and as I've been listening to you both, one thing that just popped out that I wrote down on my sheet here is this, because I'm thinking, what would the listener want to know? Maybe if they're thinking about having a relationship like this, like you've done. And one thing that I just wrote down is talk to me like I'm your best friend. And the way that sounds to me is like you are best friends. And also there's this extra element of we are parents and we're lovers and we've been together for a really long time. But there's this like, how would you talk to your best friend if you were talking about this person? And what a like perhaps a tip for people that are considering this type of relationship. Like what are other things that you all can think of? And imagine sharing the same nervous system. Like imagine that the two of you share the same nervous system. What are other things that you could think of that you would tell people about wanting to have either a relationship that looks more like relationship anarchy or non-monogamy or something like this?
I think that for me, based on what I've seen just like around, it's people who are wanting to, you know, practice relationship anarchy or non-monogamy or polyamory, whatever you want to call it, just wanting to have multiple partners basically. I think it becomes quite challenging if you're wanting to apply the model of, you know, being each other's best friend and you know, like you use that term like sharing, like I use the term sharing each other's nervous system. You say that to some people and they're like, oh, that sounds terrible. Like I wouldn't want that. Like you are you and I am me. Where some people are like, oh, that's really beautiful. So like I feel like it really depends on like who you ask and maybe how it's interpreted.
Yeah. Very much.
Yeah, but I think that for two people who are maybe wanting to have like a really strong, solid base with one person and like wanting to like explore and be with other people, I think it is quite difficult to do that successfully and truly be happy right off the bat. Like I actually think, like considering like the fact that we did it 3 times, with the 2 first times failing quite miserably, and you can also say that maybe that needed to happen, it was part of the process, but I think that first establishing a really good foundation, like a really good base. And that's not to say that you necessarily have to call one another each other's primary partner, because that's like another thing that I think that the reason we, like when we first talked to the relationship coach about like me and Rob being each other's primary partner and like whoever else would be our secondary, and then we were like, well, actually, like I don't know how I feel about that. Like, am I gonna tell this other individual who I'm wanting to have also this like romantic relationship with, just so you know, you're always gonna be secondary? Like, that's not very nice to I mean, not so very nice. We don't resonate with that level of hierarchy, and I think that hierarchy is it's gonna be there anyway, because we're married and we have like we own a land, like we have a house together and we have kids, so that's already kind of a given. So I don't think that it seems unnecessary to also, in addition to that, spell out that we are primary and you are not. So we prefer to like take that whole thing out, which is why we've been talking about relationship anarchy this whole time. But I think that people who are like right off the bat, they meet and then they're like all like right off the bat seeing other people, I think it becomes quite difficult to build that strong foundation of like the best friend, about the sharing nervous system, because you just haven't had that time for that to build. And I think that maybe the reason why we're able to be as free as we are and basically have no rules, like, you know, a lot of couples are like, you can like see other people but you're not allowed to fall in love, or you can see them this often but you can't see them on these days, or you can talk to them at this time but not at this time, and there's all these rules about what you can and can't do, or you can sleep with this person but you have to wear a condom, or you can only like do this sexual act but not this sexual act, or only like in that place but not in our bedroom, or whatever. We actually took all of that out. We took all of that out and said we have no rules. All we do instead, as like a rule, which I wouldn't even call a rule, is that we share each other's nervous system and we just feel. Like, how do I think that it's going to make my partner feel? And if I think that they're probably going to be hurt by this, I'm not going to do it. But that's not a rule. You know, it's a way of like feeling things out as you go along. So I think my advice would be to maybe establish something solid before venturing out. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, our experience might be more relevant to people who have a long relationship and are wanting to open up or present the opportunity for each other to be more free. And the other big part of this, which is cannot emphasize the importance of it, like to me individually, which I think goes back to that, is it's depends on like, why are you doing this? So if you're a couple that's been for a while and you're like, you're just not into each other anymore, or you're not sexually interested anymore, and you're like doing this to get away from something, not to empower each other for personal growth, which is really what it comes down to, then that can create a problem. It's like couples not getting along and having kids as a solution. That's a recipe for disaster in that situation. But if you're a very strong couple that, you know, everybody has to work through, but you're just like, yeah, let's explore growth in this area, because not just because I want to sleep around, because we have challenges with our sex life, this is not going to be a solution to that. But this is going to create more context for you to grow. And for me, the last year, that is really what it's been for me, and why I kind of use the word openness instead of poly, because poly, I think, has become popularized, especially people are younger than I am, maybe in like late 20s, early 30s, and it's just about like ENM. It's about dating. Like, I can date multiple people at the same time. For me, it's like, are you comfortable with someone that you love, that you want to spend the rest of your life with, falling in love with someone else? And are you comfortable accepting the fact that they may one day be closer to that person than you, and your whole reality may change, and everything that you have now may disappear and go away? Like, you have to be comfortable with that. And I think that is the heart of it, and that really goes back to me for like almost a Buddhist philosophy, that you have to learn that everything will change and everything will go away and we will all die. And once you kind of like give your partner away like that, and it's not like it can just happen overnight, but if you go through training your brain and like rewiring your circuits, like, I don't own this person. Like, I don't need this person for happiness. I have to look in other places for my self-fulfillment, kind of break that codependency thing. And then that can completely revitalize the relationship and reframe it. And that sense of freedom and acceptance of risk can be extremely empowering. So for me, it's not so much about, it is really beautiful exploring other relationships and other personalities with depth. But another big part of it is going to that root of that fear of loss and having a deep relationship with someone who you feel like belongs to you, who you want to be the person to whisper into your ear on your deathbed, and realize that that is not an experience that you own.
And I think for me, honestly, to add to that is like the kind of relationship that I have with Rob, and like what I really believe in, like at the core of my heart and my philosophy, is that the way that I love him and care for him is if he decides that his like happiness and joy is gonna be that he's on a path that I'm not part of, of course that's what I want for him. You know, like even if it means that I'm not in that picture. Having said that, I definitely have faith that, like, I accept that that's a possibility, but I feel that it's like not super likely. And
the more you start dating other people, you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
and also I feel like vice versa. Like I feel like, yes, there is that fear.
Yeah.
But also there is that like, yeah, but what is it really gonna take for that to happen? And that is like that's where we've arrived at after a lot of fucking work. Like we worked so hard to be there, and it's a very nice place to be in, because I think both of us are like would be ready to give each other away at any given moment if that was the right thing, but we also know that it's like pretty unlikely, and that's like a nice feeling too.
Yeah.
To have that level of like, I don't know if you can call it security, but a sense of knowing.
It sounds like it. Yeah, it's really beautiful, because I'm sitting here as you're talking and I'm like, oh yeah, like how heart-wrenching would it be if I'm like, this person might just choose someone else, or their life path might take them in a different place. But I'm also seeing that there's such beauty in the, as I allow this person more freedom, or not allow them, but I'm okay with them having more freedom, that also deepens the relationship at the same time. So there's kind of like this whole balance going on of like, but yeah, it's definitely, you can see how that's like a really deep journey.
Yeah, and that balance is really beautiful, because it's just like, it feels like some type of cosmic wisdom that's like it feels like a natural truth. That like there's an elasticity between the relationship I have with Carmen and freedom I have, and just like surfing that wave and riding it, and then the emotions that pop up with like craving and, you know, for new things, or, you know, new relationship energy that pops up, how that resonates, like all those things, just like surfing that rather than having very strict rules, feels like there's more growth that comes out of it. Whereas the rules like kind of just are like fake protections, which is what marriage is. You know, it's like, you know, statistically speaking, I'm not like, not judging anybody who believes that, like, you know, marriage, traditional monogamy is the like be all end all, but, you know, like there's so much data around showing that like people who feel that they are protected by rules are just as likely to be hurt by people who accept more freedom, and actually more likely, because they're going to find out later, and there's going to be resentment and destruction of a relationship. Whereas at least if you're transparent, you go through that, but you still have the opportunity to retain that freedom and growth in that relationship. And like, yeah, we read all of like Esther Perel's books, and all of like all attachment theory books, and every poly book, and all that type of stuff. So I think doing research and reading really helps, especially like stories and use cases, because a lot of that fear for me was like, even though we were like, you know, poly for our entire relationship, I always had the fear that like, oh, I don't really want to go deep into it, because if that happens, I'm going to lose this person. And I've only really been able to come to a point of freedom by accepting actually the fact that that is a possibility.
Yeah, and like last month I went to visit my partner who lives in Chicago now, and we had the most incredible weekend together, and it was just really wonderful, really connecting. And I was crying when we said goodbye at the airport and thinking, oh, you know, let's see them again, and this was so nice. And also this kind of strange thing about being like this family person, mother of two, and like having the routine in your life, which is like sometimes like the routine is like pretty like similar, and then you just like go off and have this weekend and you feel like you're like almost like this like single person in your 20s again, and you're like in love and hanging out with this person who you're in a new relationship with, and then getting on a plane and coming home and being met at the airport by Rob and both the kids, and they were all there to greet me, and then I just like cried as much, you know, because I'm like, oh my god, I have this life and I have this life, and this is like I'm coming home to my family, and they're supporting this lifestyle that is like kind of a little bit unconventional, I think. And I think like a lot of people who raise young children maybe don't really have that, and there's something really beautiful that's something that we've built, and something that is actually feeling like okay and even good for everybody.
Yeah. Wow.
So
yeah, beautiful work. You know, it's a lot. I can just hearing in your story and just knowing from my own personal experiences what some of those things can be like. And I know that, yeah, it's not, things aren't set and perfect now. I am sure there's still things going on, but a lot of work has gone into building what this is. And we're about at time. I don't want to go too much longer. Are there, any last things? It could even be, you mentioned some books that you all read. It seems like having external support too at this point from therapists has been really helpful.
yes.
Any particular things that you've read or seen that you would recommend to people also going on this journey?
I would say that because of the amplitude that you go through, having a self-cultivation practice is a requisite for that. Even like now, I feel like I work through a lot of stuff without having. For me, it's like a Vipassana meditation practice, which my practice right now is pretty crap. But like knowing that I can get back and access it whenever I need to, and definitely the last part of opening up, like I was meditating like 2 hours a day. Completely eliminated alcohol and caffeine for like 3 months just to like make sure I was super strong, work through this stuff. A lot of journaling, like I think having a non-mental like practice, or like a physicality or some type of contemplative practice to like calm the nervous system, and have, I mean, it's popularly called like dating oneself. I think it's a little bit deeper than that. I think it's working through the way you process craving and aversion. Like I couldn't do it without that, because I would just be like, I would just start drinking all day long and then just like try to run away from the emotions.
So something to like anchor you and stay.
You need an anchor. Yeah, it could be like a high intensity interval training routine. It could be like a friend that you meet with. It could be a meditation practice. But when you go through a period of your life where you accept that like you're going to have hard emotions, and you know, adding those hard emotions to all this other stuff, like having a family, having a startup, like supporting the startup, like you're just gonna bleed out, right? So,
and non-judgmental friends.
Yeah, right. Community is having a sangha,
which is very very hard sometimes if you're like exploring this lifestyle, and people are like, well, that sounds really hard, and like, why would you do that? And also in a way that sometimes like people don't understand it and don't really want to understand it, or they look at themselves and they're like, well, I don't think I could do that with my partner. So there's just, you know, that's happened a lot, I think, to us, and sometimes feeling a little bit lonely in exploring this, and thinking, well, how nice would it be if I had a friend I could talk to who actually like like was able to listen with no judgment.
Yeah.
And just listen.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to double down on that, because especially like going out to friends that we had that had a lot of similar experiences, there are people who just like, as soon as you talk to them, they like freeze up. And I think the perspective is like,
it makes them very uncomfortable.
they feel they're starting to judge themselves based on and their own like, and that's not the intent. The intent is just to like
share,
resonate and share. But I have had a couple of friends who known since childhood who I'm so close with that are in monogamous, like more traditional relationships, and they've just been like, oh my god, that's so fascinating, can you tell me more? And like they just eat it up. And like I think you have to identify those people, and it doesn't mean that they have to have
similar
an open
Right.
lifestyle, right? Just you have to identify who those friends are who are going to kind of be agnostic and really focus on supporting you with some curiosity.
Yeah, having other people that have curiosity about it.
Yeah.
Well, I have now so many more questions, so maybe I had this with my first episode too, like maybe round 2 at some point.
Yeah.
Because it opens up so many other things. I mean, I have this whole list of questions and haven't touched many of them because I've just loved so much the way this has gone, and I've been taking notes of you all been talking, but we've touched a lot of those areas too.
Yeah.
But we haven't talked much about your kids and just like your relationship with them and parenting, which I love, because I don't know how many people I'll interview that have kids. Most of my friends don't have kids, my close friends. But I just want to thank you all so much for doing this and sharing yourself so openly through a lot of like just real stories, painful times, times where this has been really inspiring and seems like it's working. So thanks so much for being here. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having us, and if you ever wanted to do a second one, I think we both would be open to that. This was really fun.
Cool.
So,
I think the listeners are going to get a lot from this, so thank you so much.
Great, thank you.
Your hands look like mine. Father's hands spin me around. Make me a bowl of clay. Then empty me out of all the stories in my brain. They're weighing me down, and they're not real. Anyway, I'm coming home, coming into the light, greeting all my beasts before coming inside. I welcome all parts of you, like gas in the night. Maybe they'll clear us out for some new